70 starters from 28 nations, the Americans leading off, with Armstrong now defending that championship. And what a course it is too. 19 laps of a 13.25 kilometre circuit, the high spot on the start and finish. Normally rivals, of course, now of winning the world title, but he's now on the 9th of 17 circuits, and his lead is coming down. In the main field here, it's a total of 15 laps by the way, but in the main field here, the main field have been struggling. They've been losing a lot of men out of the pack, but nobody has attempted to break clear. It's been a very typical professional championship where they wear down one another before they put in the attacks they hope will count. This is Richard Virenque, who's come here thinking he will do well on this circuit. It should be a circuit that will suit him, but of course everybody doesn't know how they will react to the altitude here on the circuit. The climb itself is vicious. It starts at 8,300 feet, it goes up to 9,500 feet, so it has an elevation in 2 jumps of 1,200 feet. And as you can see now, they're beginning to reel in the courageous but rather silly Rouvy, who is now going to be swept up by what is left of the 98 riders who started this event. And in this breakaway still we have Mike Engelman and the other American rider, Andy Hampston, the only 2 American riders in this group. Lance Armstrong, a non-starter early today, in fact didn't make the journey to Colombia at all, reportedly because he was unhappy with his form after having a rather rough time in a 2-day race in Colorado, which was competed among others by Miguel Indurain, who he says has form which is too good. So Lance, the winner of the San Sebastian Classic, not here. Now then, Rouvy has spent 9 laps, or the best part of 9 laps out front. He's about to be swept up. Claudio Chiappucci is setting the pace here. Not surprisingly, perhaps, the Colombian riders are all lining up behind Claudio Chiappucci. The pressure is on them because there were great fears expressed by almost every country coming, and really it's a very small field with only 98 starters here in Colombia, not only of the course but of the country itself. And yet these World Championships here, the Colombians have made every rider feel extremely welcome. Crowds enthusiastic. I'm sure they would love to see a Spanish-speaking winner, but even so, they're making every rider welcome to Colombia. They do appreciate the sport. A little breakaway going immediately now on the capture of Rouvy. They're trying to establish a little smooth-moving breakaway. Claudio Chiappucci, I think, is the rider who spearheaded the attack, and Gianni Farazin, so 2 Italians straight at the front, and there they are. Farazin, Chiappucci, Morleon, and this rider coming on is Jose Jaime Gonzalez from Colombia. So the Colombians trying desperately to put in a good performance on home ground. Well, at least the conditions, which are not great right now, there's a threat of rain. It is chilly, but the sun is shining as we speak. The only chance that we get to see the riders racing in the colours of their country rather than their trade team, so they form strange alliances. Riders who are normally rivals, of course, now coming together to ride for the country in what is the last professional World Championship, because next year we'll be talking of elite riders as they all line up, and they all can take part if they can get selection in the Olympic Games in Atlanta. There's Farazin, and it looks as though he's having a bit of a tough time now. The hill again claiming yet another victim here as the main field keeps the tempo, watches the riders slip away from the back. But my goodness me, there's some fast tempo riding. Miguel Indurain is the rider now, with all of his Spanish teammates around him. First World Championship, by the way, it was in the Nürburgring back in 1927. So it's rather sad in a way that we're watching the final world title for professionals. There is, of course, now the Under-23 World Championship and the actual World Championship, which means that we'll see these riders in against riders we've normally referred to in the past as amateurs next year. And they'll all be in the Olympic Games as well. I wonder indeed if Miguel Indurain and the big names of cycling will go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Olympic Games, coming so close as it does this time to the Tour de France. So coming round to the end of the lap, and it looks as though we've just lost Farazin there. He's gone back into the field. Indurain licking his lips. Runner-up in the World Championship, never won the title, but he's a world champion now for the very first time in his career. A few days ago, winning the time trial championship from his teammate Abraham Olano. think we all expected that one. The man who has proved himself time and time again the fastest time trial rider in a Tour de France, now deservedly the world time trial champion. But in fairness, Chris Bourbon unable to defend the title he won last year because of that accident in the prologue time trial in the Tour de France. But Chris is making good progress. Rolf Sørensen here, very resplendent in the colours of Denmark, and that's Paolo Lanfranchi, who doesn't seem too keen. And Dmitry Konishev, the Russian rider, number 14. And Javier Morlion is number 88. And the riders now covered 177 kilometres. This is a small chase group here being led by Udo Boltz, the German rider. But they're moving out onto lap number. It's been a very typical professional championship where they wear down one another before they put in the attacks they hope will count. This is Richard Virenque, who's come here thinking he will do well on this circuit. It should be a circuit that will suit him, but of course everybody doesn't know how they will react to the altitude here on the circuit. The climb itself is vicious. It starts at 8,300 feet, it goes up to 9,500 feet, so it has an elevation in 2 jumps of 1,200 feet. And as you can see now, they're beginning to reel in the courageous but rather silly Laurent Roux, who is now going to be swept up by what is left of the 98 riders who started this event. And in this breakaway still we have Mike Engelman and the other American rider Andy Hampston, the only 2 American riders in this group. Lance Armstrong, a non-starter early today, in fact didn't make the journey to Colombia at all, reportedly because he was unhappy with his form after having a rather rough time in a 2-day race in Colorado, which was competed among others by Miguel Indurain, who he says has form which is too good. So Lance, the winner of the San Sebastian Classic, not here. Now then, Laurent Roux has spent 9 laps, or the best part of 9 laps out front. He's about to be swept up. Claudio Chiappucci is setting the pace here. Not surprisingly, perhaps, the Colombian riders are all lining up behind Claudio Chiappucci. The pressure is on them because there were great fears expressed by almost every country coming, and really it's a very small field with only 98 starters here in Colombia, not only of the course but of the country itself. And yet these World Championships here, the Colombians have made every rider feel extremely welcome. Crowds enthusiastic. I'm sure they would love to see a Spanish-speaking winner, but even so, they're making every rider welcome to Colombia. They do appreciate the sport. A little breakaway going immediately now on the capture of Laurent Roux. They're trying to establish a little smooth-moving breakaway. Claudio Chiappucci, I think, is the rider who spearheaded the attack, and Gianni Farazin, so 2 Italians straight at the front, and there they are. Farazin, Chiappucci, Morlion, and this rider coming on is Jose Jaime Gonzalez from Colombia. So the Colombians trying desperately to put in a good performance on home ground. Well, at least the conditions, which are not great right now, there's a threat of rain. It is chilly, but the sun is shining as we speak. The only chance that we get to see the riders racing in the colours of their country rather than their trade team, so they form strange alliances. Riders who are normally rivals, of course, now coming together to ride for the country in what is the last professional World Championship, because next year we'll be talking of elite riders as they all line up, and they all can take part if they can get selection in the Olympic Games in Atlanta. There's Farazin, and it looks as though he's having a bit of a tough time now. The hill again claiming yet another victim here as the main field keeps the tempo, watches the riders slip away from the back. But my goodness me, there's some fast tempo riding. Miguel Indurain is the rider now, with all of his Spanish teammates around him. First World Championship, by the way, was in the Nürburgring back in 1927. So it's rather sad in a way that we're watching the final world title for professionals. There is, of course, now the Under-23 World Championship and the actual World Championship, which means that we'll see these riders in against riders we've normally referred to in the past as amateurs next year. And they'll all be in the Olympic Games as well. I wonder indeed if Miguel Indurain and the big names of cycling will go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Olympic Games, coming so close as it does this time to the Tour de France. So coming round to the end of the lap, and it looks as though we just lost Farazin there. He's gone back into the field. Indurain licking his lips. A runner-up in the World Championship, never won the title, but he's a world champion now for the very first time in his career. A few days ago, winning the time trial championship from his teammate Abraham Olano. I think we all expected that one. The man who has proved himself time and time again, the fastest time trial rider in a Tour de France, now deservedly the world time trial champion. But in fairness, Chris Boorman unable to defend the title he won last year because of that accident in the prologue time trial in the Tour de France. But Chris is making good progress. Rolf Sørensen here, very resplendent in the colours of Denmark, and that's Paolo Lanfranchi, who doesn't seem too keen. And Dmitry Konishev, the Russian rider, number 14, as Javier Morlion is number 88. And the riders now have covered 177 kilometres. This is a small chase group here, being led by Udo Boltz, the German rider. But they're moving out onto lap number 11, and we have here Rolf Sørensen, and looking for a little bit of help from the rest of the riders here, and not wanting any of it. The other two that are broken clear here, Israel Ochoa, and the rider setting the pace, a man who always seems to perform at World Championship level, Dmitry Konishev, the Russian rider who was the first Soviet to really make impressions on the professional scene. Silver medalist to win Greg LeMond was the world champion, and indeed he pipped Sean Kelly, pushing him into the bronze medal slot in Chambéry. And that was in 1989. The field behind now are still those that have got the strength hanging on. Richard Virenque, Zenon Jaskula. And just around the other side there we've got Oliviero Rincon. Another man we can expect something of, because he sadly was out of the Tour de France this year at the 12th hour because of problems in those places we can't mention. Now there we have Israel Ochoa. But as you can see how the weather has changed now. We've gone into a storm here, and this is just a gentle reminder that the weather was never intended to be hot and sunny in Duitama, and that's the way it's going to be, I think, now. The clouds are very heavy indeed. Now the Colombians know all about this, but look at the rain here as they climb yet again. Ochoa setting the pace with Dmitry Konishev. We're on to lap number 11 of 15 circuits. And Pascal Richard, former champion of Switzerland, continuing to have another great season, setting the pace of what is now a very small group indeed here. One or two names I can tell you are in that group. We've got Miguel Indurain, Mauro Gianetti, Puccini, Richard Virenque, Abraham Olano, Oscar Pelliccioli, Javier Morlion, Claudio Chiappucci. I've seen Marco Pantani. Those riders still surviving what is certainly a war of attrition. And look at this now as they go round that corner. Somebody didn't make it at all and has gone straight on. But this is the danger of the descents in the wet here, as riders now are finding that they're losing complete traction on those corners. They are glacial. Let's have a look at that again. And that is a Colombian rider who's gone, and I think it is Ramirez who's gone down. Well, you can't fall in a more convenient spot when you're at the wheels of the waiting ambulance, so he should be okay. It wasn't really very much of a high-speed crash. He should get back on his bike pretty soon. We're back with the leaders here now, and we've gone off the mountain, and we're finding a little bit dry weather conditions again. Remember, at the bottom of the circuit here is still 8,300 feet above sea level. Those riders with intention this year have gone to great lengths, not to mention expense, to train properly and prepare at altitude for this event. 5 hours and 16 minutes. The riders have been clear now, as these two riders still stay clear. As we move into lap 12, there's a consolidation of a group behind. The lead was previously 1 minute and 25 seconds. It's come down as we go out onto lap number 12, and the Italians again are very active. They come through and stop the clock. 56 seconds is now the gap to Ochoa and Konishev. And Marco Pantani is now winding things up yet again. Here's a man everybody would love to see turn in a World Championship performance. And I must say, seeing the four-wheel drive vehicles here following the two leaders reminds me of the old peace race that was the shop window of Eastern European cycling in the 60s, and you always used to follow those in army vehicles. Well, conditions not requiring yet four-wheel drive, although the rain up on the mountain is enough to give everybody a thorough soaking. This is the chase group that's trying to assemble themselves now, and it looks to me as though we've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 or 9 people here. The Italian rider there, number 59, is Casagrande. And the little man there from Polti, that'll be Oscar Pelliccioli. Probably remembered best in the United States by his King of the Mountains victory in the Tour du Pont a year or so ago. And they come from the town of Duitama, but what a lot of pressure too to do well. Well, he's doing all right now, because he's up in the chase group being driven on here by Miguel Indurain, the man everybody is saying has the form. We know that after his great time trial ride. And Escartine also here, ride number 83. Spanish rider who continues to progress here. The Spanish team is tremendously strong this year. Maybe we're seeing a swing away from the Italians towards the Spanish. Remember, the Spanish, by the way, have never won the world title. Two Italians have made the split, Pelliccioli, Marco Pantani. The race now taking on a much more serious approach to this mountain route. You're either going up or going down. Back with the leaders here. Israel Ochoa and Dmitry Konishev, and the Colombians far from disappointing the home crowd so far. We had the long breakaway by the Frenchman Rouvy. He's been picked up and washed away on the climb, but he's got a good future in front of him. He's only 22 years of age, by the way, Rouvy, and a very good ride last year when he finished 5th in the Paris-Nice stage race. Just 33 seconds now, and judging by the speed as we look down from our helicopter, it won't be long before we see that chase group come back. Dmitry Konishev perhaps thinking of the ride still to come that lies ahead if he wants to turn in another good world title performance. This isn't the moment now to put a lot of weight behind this breakaway. He may already have sensed, in fact, that Ochoa is not the rider to be with. Coming on to lap number 12, or completing lap number 12 rather. About halfway round the course here, and still on the climb. There's the very select little group, about 15 men. And in fact, one or two more Italians are here now. Number 59 is Francisco Casagrande, having a great season, which all started out with a stage win in the Tour of Calabria back in March. And since then, he had a great Spring Classic season with 4th in Flèche Wallonne and 5th Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and 2nd in the Tour of Romandy in Switzerland in May. So deserving his place on the Italian team, and this man, well, he certainly deserves his place, and he's dancing away on the climb. If anybody should love this mountain, it should be Marco Pantani. He's turned up the pressure just that little bit now. He's decided on lap number 12 it's time to start breaking up the field. Jimenez is trying to get on terms with him there for Spain, but it looks as though it's going to be Pantani using the leapfrogging effect to start with the two leaders who are away, Ochoa and Konishev. But he's going to find that there's no strength in this leading group. When he gets there, he's going to have to continue and hope that somebody perhaps will join him. Because I cannot believe that he's anticipating another 3 laps of this circuit alone. So Pantani has made his move. He's got up alongside the two leaders and left them completely for dead, although you've really got to hand it to Israel Ochoa. He's just gone round and left Konishev, and he's joined the new express, which appears to be going forward. So Pantani keeps the rhythm high. This could be the first serious selection now. This could well break up that chase group. There's still an awful lot of riders back there. The Italians, as always, one for all and all for one, will not be countering the reaction of Marco Pantani. Spain have been particularly active today. Indurain quite clearly feels he has the form, and it looks as though his lieutenant Jimenez is coming up. And this is all that seems to be left at the moment of this group. Pascal Richard, who is in this group, or in the group just behind our picture at the moment, trying to drag the racing back into contention. Mauro Gianetti, now recovering from his injuries that kept him out of the Tour de France, is also in this group. Remember, he was the man who shocked us all with back-to-back wins in the World Cup in April and May time. Abraham Olano. The Spanish riders have got 4 men up here. And they may even have 5, but this is Jimenez at the front. There could be 4 of them back in that pack. Jimenez has scored to Ochoa. 3, 6, 8, 9 riders in what is a very select chase group here at the minute. Federico Escartin, rider 83, turned pro 5 years ago now, but he's only just starting to show us his real true talent. Finished 7th in this year's Tour de France, and now looking for a good World Championship as well. There's Jimenez. He's finding it a little bit hard to capture the man who's danced away on the mountain though, and the wet roads, Marco Pantani. A true mountain climber, the like we haven't seen really since the retirement of men like Lucien Van Impe. Just sits there and concentrates. He belies his young age, with his bald head, that's the style. And now we're looking as though they might be just trying to reorganise themselves behind. Remember, there's a lot of Spanish riders in this group, not least this man here who's setting the pace right now, Miguel Indurain. No reason to panic just yet. There's plenty of time. Pascal Richard sitting firmly on the wheel of Indurain, and it looks as though it's going to may all come back together this time at least. There's Richard, number 31. Mauro Gianetti. There were 1 or 2 French riders in this group before the attack came. Pascal Hervé and Richard Varennes were there, but they seem to have disappeared very, very quickly under the attack. Indurain the first to reach him as the climb continues, and what a difficult climb this is. The amateur race was equally as exciting and very arduous indeed. That was of course a qualifying event for the road teams for the Olympic Games in Atlanta, and got a tremendous entry, record entry by the way for these World Championships, more than 75 nations entering. But I wonder if that would have been the case if they hadn't have been necessary for selection to the Olympic Games. It proved to be a perfect carrot though for the South American nation, and they've had a tremendous World Championships here. Jimenez, number 87. This is a superb little group that they're trying to get clear with now. Mauro Gianetti, 2 World Cup victories and currently lying 3rd in the World Cup with just those points scored. 100 points and 50 points a win. Miguel wears 82 in this event. A man who's had seconds in the World Championship but never the World Champion. Something I think he's beginning to get to him. So many people are saying he's a man only for the month of July for the Tour de France, which in itself is not true, because of course he's won the Tour of Italy in the month of June. And yet he never seems to worry about the World Championships. But I think this year he's come here thinking very much of these championships. We've got, and these 2 have been dropped slightly from the main field. Number 1 is Rincon, number 84 is Abraham Olano. Olano, I think, and Rincon are coming up from the split there. They've recovered from the counter-attack by Indurain as he went after Pantani, and those 2 are getting up to the leaders again. So Rincon is keeping the Colombian flag flying high at the moment. That's if he gets on, but I think he will once we're over the top of the hill here. Olano, 2nd place in the World Time Trial Championship, and having a tremendous season too. A great battle, Olano and Laurent Jalabert in the Tour of Spain, which was unaccustomedly held in September this year, as it will be next year. And he proved to be the man in charge in the time trial. He's finding his legs again in a major event. He's got the form, and he's got himself up to the leaders as well. If you ever get a chance to look at the face of Abraham Olano, just watch him, because he looks almost identical to Miguel Indurain. It's quite uncanny. There's Rincon, number 1. He's back and relieved about it too by the look of it. Looks to be about 10 riders forming in this lead group now. Notable absentees, probably Richard Virenque is the big noted absentee because he's been riding well all day. Cullen and is out of this group as well. And he looked to be going quite well. Well, the risk is always there on these descents because your brakes never work quite as well as they should. As they sort of slide as you apply the brakes to the rim, you get that film of water between brake and rim. The bike gives you that horrible feeling it's accelerating rather than slowing down. These are the strong men of world cycling right now, because on this circuit you can't cheat your way around and hope to win the sprint, as one or two world titles have been decided in long years gone by. On this circuit you've got to come out, you've got to give it your best, and you've got to hope. Well, that looks to me as though we've got Escartine on the attack again down there. And if we have, the rider in the red jersey, I think, could well be Puccini. Now they've only just gone clear. And the little select group is now deciding what they're going to do about it. But one thing is for sure, that the Spanish have got this race highly under control at the moment. Felice Puccini is a Swiss rider with Refan normally, and that's him there, number 33. And he's read this move quite well. He's got himself a very good rider in Escartine, because he is another rider who's having a tremendous season. He turned professional back in 1990 when he had himself a clutch of wins as an amateur, almost 100 wins as an amateur rider before he turned pro. And now he's got himself into the lead. Going out here onto lap number 13. And Puccini and Escartine have got themselves about 15-20 seconds gap. It says 10 on the screen at the moment. But the clock is on freeze. Now we're moving. Paolo Lanfranchi bringing them through at around about 25 seconds. Through the feed station, out onto lap 13, 3 laps still to go. Richard Virenque appears to have recouped somewhat. Rolf Sorensen, who's just gone through the left of our picture. Now this is the group that is trying to bring back. They've come back onto the back of the group here now, and Indurain has gone down the line to check them all out. As he's done so, Casagrande is also here now, so we've had quite a coming up togetherness of the main chase field as they've slowed down, an indication that they did slow down. And I would say it's because the Spanish have turned off the power at the front, because we've got here now Escartine and Puccini trying to go clear. Puccini making a good move here. Now the Spanish are riding this World Championship like we've seen the Italians do year in and year out. They put men away into breakaways all of the time. They don't care which one gets the world title as long as the country succeeds, and they all share in the kitty. And right now that's exactly what the Spanish have been doing throughout the day since they picked up the Frenchman. And it's being left to the Italians to try and put matters to rights. 31 is Gianetti, 82 is Big Mig himself, number 1 is Rincon, 59 is Casagrande, and on the far side, back to heel at the moment at least, is Marco Pantani. Richard Virenque is also there. Rolf Sorensen, a man for the single day certainly, and a man for the World Championships as well. And Jose Jaime Gonzalez is number 10, still flying the flag for Colombia. So Colombia have certainly 3 riders here, because also here Israeli Ochoa, who is in that breakaway with Konishev. He's done extremely well to stay with the action right at the front, despite that attack with Konishev. Konishev is no longer here. It's Spain and Italy, with an intrusion from Colombia, the way the action is coming at the moment. Mappe, the number 1 team in the world, again providing us with men in the thick of the action. There's Lanfranchi, number 66. Has that strange squat little style, rather similar to Pantani. Number 84 is Alano. It's just off our camera. You see how he looks like Miguel Indurain? This is Lanfranchi. There's the little climber, Pelliccioli. Well suited to this course today as we go further up the climb. They're not really escaping yet, but Mr. Wermelinger, the commissaire there with the red hat on, I'm not sure whether his car should be right in the gap yet, although it's probably bigger than it appears on television. But they can see the cars, they can see the two leaders, and the Italians are having to do all of the work now because they're under a Spanish escort. Pelliccioli making the rhythm. The gap is 15 seconds, so they're holding. Pantani, Virenque looking very, very concentrated. Escartine is doing the majority of the riding here. Puccini, whose only win this year, by the way, was the national championship rather in Switzerland, which he's done for the second year. You may remember that Felice Puccini was the rider who made that long breakaway in the San Sebastian Classic this year. So perhaps he was in search of just topping off his form, ready for the world title. Well, it could have worked. He's in at the kill, and there aren't many riders left in this race. 98 at the start, and I think we're looking at no more than 35 riders still on the course. Once over the top of this hill, it's down to the finishing line, and then the riders about a lap and a half from the finish. Work being done all the time by Escartine. Puccini has made the move, but I'm not sure now he's got the legs to push it home. It seems to me, although this breakaway is clear, it is well under control of the chasers behind. But you can see by the way the riders struggle on this climb just how steep it is. Our cameras really belie the climb. It is a vicious, vicious climb for a World Championship. It's probably the most difficult circuit since 1980 in Solange, when Bernard Hinault won what was most certainly an elimination race there, as riders each lap just simply dropped away rather than a breakaway forming, and in the end Hinault was magnificent. He got his world title on a very difficult course down in France in Solange. The rhythm of Fernando Escartine. Finished 12th in the Tour de France in 1994, went 5 places better in 1995. He's always ridden well in the Tour of Spain. He was 10th in that in 93, 1994. He was right up there again this year. So he continues to improve despite the fact that he's moving into his 6th season as a professional next year. And despite the weather, a huge crowd on the climb. This is the place to be. This is where the race was bound to be decided or lost. And these 3 riders still hanging on to a tenuous lead. It's no more than 25 seconds as we speak. There's somewhere in the region of 16 riders now in that chase group. Chase group, we've got Rincon. Dimitri Konishev, by the way, is still here. He hasn't been dropped, and neither has the rider he was in that breakaway with either, Israel Ochoa. Francesco Casagrande is here. Jose Maria Jimenez, Fernando Escartine is in the breakaway and still trying to keep away from what is a fair number of his own teammates, but they won't be chasing him, of course. Zenon Yaskulu is here. And although I haven't caught a glimpse of him, the list of riders were told Andy Hampson is also here. Well, as far as I know now, Andy is the only American still out on the course. Mike Engelman was the last American rider to retire. Remember, Mike had a great time trial. He finished 8th in the World Championship, so his World Championships already will seem to him a great success. Through the feeding zone, a welcome sight, but when you can always tell a serious bike race, when the pressure's on, they don't stop to snatch the drinks as they continue to apply the pressure. Pelliccioli He's actually keeping a huge gear turning there, and he's being marked now by Abraham Olano, whose season has gone from strength to strength. But one thing was always certain: this was never going to be a race for the sprinters, and none has survived here. We've got all the climbers, men that we've often called in the big races around the world on the biggest mountains. They are surviving. This is their world championship this year. It was always going to be that way. Escartine is a good climber. Bottini perhaps not quite as strong, but he's a moment in the breakaway, and they're still going clear. They continue to climb. The riders will not see them now. They've climbed out of sight. Bottini goes through on the inside, quite prepared to make the pace. The race starts to tip a little bit, and soon they'll be going down the hill. Oscar Pelliccioli and Olano just behind him. Olano has only been a pro since 1992. He's just 25 years of age, good time. Nice mature time of life to be a professional bike rider. Number one is Rincon, still with one of his teammates in front of him. I think it was Gonzalez. No, it wasn't, it was Ochoa, number 7. Rolf Sorensen, the tail end Charlie of the string. And the gap is still opening up here. And looking into this very select group, there's no Stars and Stripes jersey there of Andy Hampson, who is still on the course, but he's riding round out of touch of this main field. And number 14, sitting at the back of that group ahead of Rolf Sorensen, is Dmitry Konishev, so he's still very much in there. Now, when they get down off this mountain here, they'll be completing their 13th circuit, and they're still hanging on to the best part of a half a minute's lead. There's no reason to panic yet. A lot of riders here, like Sorensen, look to me as though they're just trying to survive rather than take part in the race right now. Konishev and Sorensen riding at the back of this race. Konishev, the rider who turned pro in 1989 and then popped up with a silver medal in the World Championship at Chambéry. He's had the pleasure, as is for all riders, to win the final stage 2 of the Tour de France, which he did 1991 it would have been. It was the year that our man Jamaluddin Abdou-Japarov crashed in sight of the line with that spectacular fall. Those roads absolutely treacherous, and that's why the riders are picking the way down rather delicately at this minute in time. They're using the pressure up the hill rather than down the hill. There's the ambulance waiting on the bend. Quite clearly that bend was recognised on the recce as to be the one to put the ambulance on, and we've already had a fall right on the corner there with Rodriguez. Difference in nerve too, as riders start to just plot their own way down and don't stay too close to the man in front, just in case. This is the descent which takes the riders back down to a mere 8,300 feet, and then there's virtually no respite before they start the climb up the mountain again. It's unlikely, according to the world body, the UCI, that there will ever be a world championship held at altitude again. The opinions are that it shouldn't be held at altitude again, but on this occasion one has to say that the world championships here in Colombia have been a success. I should imagine that the man that picks up this title will feel he's more than justly earned it, because it's got to come from the riders in our picture at the moment, unless of course it's one of the two out front. But in this leading group, certainly the selection has been made now, something like 30 kilometers still to race. The Italians on the defensive for a change, because the Spanish are playing the cards in great order. Rincon sitting at the back, still waiting and hoping he might be able to get away, perhaps with a lap to go. Rolf Sorensen here, the only Dane, as so often he is at World Championship level, left in the thick of the action. Richard Virenque, the Frenchman who shot to fame in the Tour de France when he wore the yellow jersey for a day, now very much an established star of the circuit. Mauro Gianetti, number 31, despite his years as a professional, he seemed to be in his twilight years, pops up with 2 World Cup wins this year. Lanfranchi, again, this cramped style and long reach of Lanfranchi's. He tries desperately now to pull the Italians back into this action. They're having a real problem here. And calming down Felice Puttini and Escartine. Puttini sharing as much of the work with Escartine now. He seemed to go through a bad patch, but he's come back. And you know that perhaps he doesn't like the hill quite so much as Escartine. Swiss have 3 riders up here in this leading group, because they've also got Pascal Richard. There's Dumbo Pantani, as they call him, just checking something out with our cameraman. He's quite a character actually, and a very popular addition these last couple of years to the world circuit. Apart from having the legs of an angel, he's also got quite a personality. Indurain in at the kill yet again in the World Championship. A man that everybody thinks can't sprint, but believe me, if he thinks he can win a world title, he will produce a sprint that could well take the title out. He won the sprint that took Olaf Ludwig away from the silver medal the year Lance Armstrong won in that very wet Oslo. Well, the course wasn't quite as difficult in Oslo, but certainly the weather was just as cold and miserable. And Miguel also got a bronze medal in the World Championship in 1991 in Stuttgart. So he is a man for a World Championship, and he would dearly love to pick up the world title. The 2 men who featured most in last year's World Championship in Agrigento in Italy in this breakaway, as we look at the 2 leaders here coming round to complete lap number 13 and go out on 14. Richard Virenque finished 3rd last year, and Dmitry Konishev finished 5th. And luckily, Claudio Chiappucci, who would have been in this leading group but for a fall, he was in the medals last year in the world title as well, with a silver. And so still they dangle, agonizingly close. Just look at this, they can be seen. The gap looks to me to be about 20 seconds or so. Not very far, except that that mountain in the middle of this circuit is rather daunting to everybody, and if you hesitate too long, you might not close the gap. They are now 35 kilometers from the finish. 6¼ hours in the saddle, and they can expect the best part of another hour of racing here. Pelliccioli of Italy setting the pace. The gap as they went through the finishing line there was just about 25 seconds. Virenque tagged on to the back, a medalist a year ago. Whoops, said Daisy. Over goes the can. Good job it was empty. I'm not sure whether that means it was a tailwind or not. A quick snatch of the bottle there for Richard Virenque. Again flying the lone flag here for France. Luc Leblanc had a thoroughly forgettable season as world champion. I haven't seen him ride a single race in his rainbow jersey this year. It started out so badly, yet he came to Colombia. He was one of the first riders to see this circuit when the road wasn't even made up. Reported how difficult it would be. He's certainly right there. And then when he goes back to France, he finds his Le Groupement team in the throes of leaving the sport under a cloud of controversy, which is a great shame for Luke. And let's hope that things brighten up for him next year. These 2 riders just locked on, Puttini and Fernando Escartine. I have to say, if either of them won, it would be a surprise, but Escartine wouldn't be seen as a total surprise. And while he's got the power of what is an extraordinarily good Spanish team this year right behind him, he's got the confidence to go on. He is forcing the Italians especially to waste energy in the pursuit, and he knows it. 2 Swiss riders here, sitting a little bit down the line, Richard and Gianetti. The Colombians also not throwing their back into this race because they know the Italians and their great reputation in the World Championships. They will do all that's required. Escartine has the benefit of Olano and Indurain here, who are sitting nicely in the line and not doing much at all. Just keeping an eye on the proceedings. And also in this group for Spain is Jose Maria Jimenez. Every reason to block off. Israel Ochoa taking a drink at the back. He's had a great day. Despite that long breakaway, he doesn't seem to have been troubled at all in keeping at the back of this race. Neither does the hometown boy, Oliviero Rincon. There's Dmitry Konishev. And number 10 is Jose Jaime Gonzalez from Colombia. 59 is Casagrande. Rolf Sorensen of Denmark. Pantani is 67. Like all climbers, they never seem to stay in the saddle very long. They're frisky. And continuing along the line of this very select group, 94 is Richard Bereng. 31 is Mauro Gianetti. In front of him, the former champion of Switzerland, Pascal Richard, and a stage winner in the Tour de France, a Besançon, I remember. Number 87 is Jimenez. Number 82 is Indurain. In front of him is his double, Abraham Olano. And then we have Lanfranchi, and pedaling away at the front we have Pelliccioli on the Polti squad. And the Italians are being left to do all the work here, and they're a proud nation and they want to continue, but I can only think now that they're working in the hope that they can pull this back together again for Marco Pantani to win, because neither Lanfranchi nor Pelliccioli, I think, have got quite the pedigree to take out this world title, not in this sort of company, but certainly Marco Pantani has. But first of all, they've got to pull back these two. They're slightly reducing the gap. It's gone down from 25 seconds to 15. There's a group of 16 riders behind now. And Putini is beginning to wonder whether it's all worthwhile. Escartine is. Now, Mr. Louis Wermelinger, the chief commissaire, has pulled out of the gap all of the vehicles. They'll have noted that, the riders, and there they are, the 16 pursuers. The Italians doing it all. Pelliccioli the lion's share as well. And then behind the two Italians, the Spanish still trying to disrupt the reaction. And behind we have Pascal Richard, and then the rest of the line in a long straight line. It's not a working formation at all. They're all lying in the drift, in the drafting system behind the two Italians. Nobody prepared to help. That's the difference between professional and amateur racing. Everybody has their own reasons to make the pace, whereas with amateurs they would tend to all do a little bit each and possibly reel that braking a lot quicker. But tactics are being played here, and they're weakening the Italian team by this great chase, and at the moment it has got to be in the favour of the Spanish. They've played their men up front and they've made other teams chase them down. Now then, sir, about this bicycle. Well, I think the lightest machine required on this course is for sure, and that one I don't think would make a lap. It's been a terrific circuit in many ways, great for the spectators, but terribly, terribly difficult for the riders to participate in. There were only 98 brave souls came to this start line, and there are now fewer than 25 still left in the race. Rather sad in one way that Claudio Chiappucci has crashed out. It was a spectacular fall, but he's uninjured, by the way. But we've lost a man there that would have been very useful in this attack. I mustn't forget Casagrande, of course, on the wheel at the moment of just in front of Pantani at the back, because Casagrande is another guy who could actually do a good finish in this event. Everybody talks about Casagrande as to be a star of the future, which very often means you never are, but he has a brother as well, Filippo, who's also had a win this year, one win for him, a stage 5 it was of the Tour of Italy. Francisco, who's in the breakaway here, he's only had a couple of wins, but he's had some terrific performances under his belt as well. Lanfranchi setting the pace, followed by Pelliccioli. Then comes the Spanish, then the Swiss, then the only Dane in the breakaway, Sorensen, with the white stripes on his jersey. And then further down, I think we're looking at the riders who are waiting for the chance to springboard, the likes of Casagrande and Marco Pantani. And again back into the rain. Again, Puccini is not now putting all of his enthusiasm into this breakaway, and I think we're about to see the train catch up. The Italian Express on the flat road before we go through the start and finish and climb the mountain yet again. It looks to me as though we're going to come all together. And there it is. As they make the right-hand bend, it will be, in fact, the first man to pick him up will be Lanfranchi, followed by Pelliccioli. That was a terrific chase down by the two Italians. They received absolutely no assistance. The race went at the end of the 12th lap. They were away all of the 13th lap. They were away almost all of the 14th lap. But now we have 18 riders in front. Now the Spanish have played the cards. They've got their man caught. The next obvious thing to do if they're going to continue the trend is to attack, because they've got all the men in this breakaway to continue to put the pressure on the rest of the group. And in fact, here comes the move from the Spanish riders again. Alana, no, I thought Alana was going to have a go there, but in fact Alana just moved up on the wheel of Pelliccioli as the climb once more starts, with everybody taking very close alignment here once more. Escartine is the rider nearest the camera. He still looks pretty cool. Milano 84, and a very strong move down the outside. In fact, that is Jose Gonzalez who's gone for Colombia. And the Spanish reaction is coming again. So you see, Spain are so intent on this. I'm not sure whether that wasn't Miguel Indurain who made the move right there. And in fact, it was number 87 who made the move. So it was Jimenez and Gonzalez. Isn't it amazing how the Spanish speakers now have come into their own in a country where they speak that language? Never had such a world championships in their life. And now up comes, I think it's Mauro Gianetti. And gone straight by. Gonzalez, I don't think has got a second kick in him, but certainly Jimenez has. Now, this is the rider that caused absolute panic in Colorado when they had the training races over there. And I think contributed to the fact that Lance Armstrong decided he wasn't good enough to come to this World Championship. And instead he went home to Texas. Jimenez then has now come up onto the back wheel. He is very much a man who could pull off this world title. At first ever it would be two for Spain. He's gone up alongside Mauro Gianetti. What a great season Gianetti has had, spoiled only by a rather silly crash in mid-term in the Tour of Switzerland, which caused him to miss the Tour of France. But you know, so often happens, if you have a mid-season crash, you allow a little time for the body to recuperate, pressures are gone for a while, you can come back so well at around the time of the World Championship, and Gianetti may well be heading for victory here too. So, Mauro Gianetti and Jimenez, and we've got rider 83, well that's Escartine again, but I think he's going the other way at the moment. His legs have gone to rubber and Escartine has lost ground. So after that long breakaway, sadly, he's done his job well. It didn't work out, but it certainly split the group because of the efforts, and now the Spanish again have left their strong men into the thick of the action here, and a number of riders have lost contact there. Still sitting at the back though, Dmitry Konishev, Oliviero Rincon, this great Colombian climber. Colombia are going to take this race right down to the finishing line. You can't ask more than that from the home side. And remember, Colombians never feature in a World Championship. Put it on their own ground, and they've got riders right in at the kill. That's tremendous. Indurain here as well. The quality of these names makes this really and truly a superb World Championship here in Duitama. As we now look at Mauro Gianetti, who's 31 years of age and been a professional now for 10 years. But he's never had a great result in a World Championship, although he's certainly ridden a few for Switzerland. And now he's in towards the kill here in this one on what is a very, very tough circuit indeed. But he has for a passenger right now, and he doesn't seem to be working that hard either, is Jimenez, and he may just be wanting to play the policeman, because Indurain is coming up in what is now a smaller group behind. Pantani leading the reaction again for Italy. The Italians always having to drag this race back together, but now Pantani is the only Italian left in the group, and that is why he's having to do the work. The man who's surprising me is number 7 there, Israel Ochoa. He was in that breakaway with Konishev. He is still in the final selection. Jimenez, Giannetti. Surely this cannot last much longer now. Pantani, this wonderful little climber, keeping the tempo going very, very well indeed. Abraham Alano sitting on the wheel of his teammate Miguel Indurain. And there's Giannetti, those bronze legs of a man who spent all of his summer riding thousands of kilometres, mostly in nice weather. It's not rust, it is brown skin, because the rain today has been rather tremendous in the middle, especially. So life begins at 31 for Maro. A win this year in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège and the Amstel Gold Race. Last year, I think his best performance would have come when he finished 9th in the Tour of Lombardy, and that's a race still to come yet this season. And there's a fit gentleman on the right. If he runs fast enough, he might get lift off with that cape on. Well, the field slowly coming back. It's been a lot of hard work by Marco Pantani with no help from anybody else. But I think he'll have done the job. Now, whether he's wasted too much energy, time running out, but once again, a brilliant tactic by this strong Spanish team. And Rincon looks as though he's in a little bit of trouble. Oliveira Rincon is cracking on a hill. He knows like the back of his hand because he lives here. But that race has gone on. It looks as though it's going to be just one lap too far for Oliveira. He'll get all the support, that's for sure, but Rincon out at mid-term with an injury, and now losing ground on the front here as they climb up towards the 2 leaders. But did you notice there that Dmitry Konishev, and here he is, I was about to say, quickly got round Rincon and rejoined, but in fact he hasn't rejoined, and Konishev is also going off the back. Well, you can almost feel the agony with these riders because it is quite terrible on this climb today now, and there's not many more climbs left, but 15 times up this mountain, and believe me, that's what it is, has made this a ridiculously tough championship. But even so, it says a lot for this very select group of riders to survive for the sprint, if that's what it's going to be, and nobody would have bet on that at the start of the race today. So it looks as though the Spanish are going to have to think again now. Their tactics so far have been nothing short of textbook. Swiss riders too. And perhaps we're not paying enough attention to the likes of Pascal Richard, because there's a man who is an extremely strong rider who wouldn't surprise at all if he managed to turn out a winning ride in a world championship. It perhaps in some people's eyes is long overdue. He's been a pro for 10 years, just like Giannetti.